everybody? We're back with another video. It's your man, King A.D.S, here in the Inland Empire, and just wanted to touch on a few things that are good and also interesting because that's the MO over here. I'm a music guy first and foremost out of the Inland Empire, and I do these vlogs from time to time, not only to touch bases and to show that I'm real, but to also express something that's either interesting or informative, so on and so forth, but just try to keep it on an interesting vein for the most. You know what I mean? Sometimes it'll be weird, sometimes it'll be silly. I never really know what I'm gonna really get into. But today, of course, I wanted to touch on the emphasis of MLK Day, a happy MLK Day to everybody out there, and just to give respects to not only Martin Luther King, but all the wonderful people that were along in that struggle to fight against injustices of inequality, which can hinder someone's ability to have a decent life, dictates where you're going to live, where you're going to work, what quality or standard of living you can have in a socioeconomic stance of society. And so hats off to all the people who gave their blood, sweat, and tears to the struggle, and until this day as we carry on into the future of in 2026. And we're still out there fighting for rights, and I think that's something that will never stop, as far as not just as Black people, but as all people that see humanity as one whole entity, and that what's good for the justice of all of us, right? Because these things can be flip-flopped either way. But shouts out to the protesters that are out to make a difference, especially from back in the days, as they were organized, intelligent, and very focused. And I would love to see a lot more of that in these times, where people organize, get informed, and really attack things on bullet points and with the right types of methods and things like that. And so hats off and kudos to the predecessors that really had that kind of stuff down. You know what I mean? And but yeah, but the terrible thing is for someone not to be able to be considered a human and have human rights. You know what I'm saying? To be able to have their own voice in society. So, so the things like social injustice and inequalities are horrible, and they should never take place in any society. But we see from time to time that if we peer past the veil of what we can see on the surface, that a lot of these things in the back have been said to, from time to time, people have speculated that some of these things are not just about race, but about programming for perhaps other aspirations, like goals that want to be achieved by what other people have considered people in kind of a shadow ring of power, that seem to think that they have the responsibility of dictating the flow of what we would consider regular living. And so, yeah, so when we go past the veil, we might find some things that would indicate that perhaps some of the things that we have encountered, these injustices and things, are manipulation, right? It could be a tactic of manipulation for people to be able to accomplish certain means of things. So being used as a mechanism, and it doesn't matter where it is, it seems, in the world, these tactics are used against some of their own people from time to time. Each government in the world has been known to do these sorts of things. So does it make it right? Absolutely not. But it's very important for us to understand things like that, so we don't fall into these type of manipulation tactics. Why would they want to pit one group against another? Well, when it comes time for votes and support on certain things, it's nice to know that you have something in the back pocket. And also have a pin cushion, kind of like a safety cushion in front of you when you have people who believe things things you preach or things you say. They may stand up for that and believe it wholeheartedly. And that can happen when people are undereducated about all the details of what's going on. And we've seen in history people have been kept away from information that they can gain to be more knowledgeable about things for quite some time. And we can also see that spill out into our more modern narrative as you see the polls slipping on literacy, not only in America, but I'm sure in other places of the world as well. But I would say that that would be indicative symptom of some a remnant from the past, right? These actions have consequences, right? Action, reaction type things. And so what would we be really dealing with more than just a hatred, something that would make up a propaganda to get whatever it wants, which is an unbridled greed, with unhinged greed, which, in my opinion, and some others' opinion, will come from having a lack of a substance of connectivity, perhaps, creativity, perhaps, imagination, or an emotional connection, perhaps, the way that information is processed with a thinking tool called the brain, perhaps, imbalances, perhaps. Who knows? Hard to put your finger on it, but it definitely doesn't seem like an MO of a mentality or energy that would be harmonious with its atmosphere. Definitely would be something of an oddity in that type of representation or that perspective. So, is that what we possibly could be dealing with? I remember when I was young in economics class and we were learning about those types of things and existentialists and existentialism and how that can pose a threat to that sort of greed or lack of substance in a person who would be corrupt, and so would go to any bounds to whatever, to get whatever that is that they're after, whether it's praise or power or resources or whatever it is, right? Just to have more and more and more and more and not know why they can never be satisfied. And so, that's something to always take note of, because it could be very tricky in a divisive way just to pit people against one another, so on and so forth. Whatever the tune needs to be, to use that tune to get people to step out of that square or onto that square, just manipulation in short, so yeah, racism bad, social inequality bad. And you know what else is weird too? And it also could just be tools of divisiveness, you know what I'm saying, where the person that said and puts these things into action may not even believe in it or anything like that, just to use you and put that dunce cap on your head, and and not give you any information on the way out too, which is awful. Only give you a pamphlet for what they would like you to do. Very CEO to manager to employee, different scripts on down the totem pole there. But I was also going to bring up the weird as well, because all these things are real, but then they're also weird. But you could look into all of it yourself, or and I don't know how you feel, your opinions as well, how you feel about what do you think, is it, are we dealing with a defective product? You know what I'm saying? Us being the humans, being the product, we obviously see that we have issues, and there's people out there with issues, and we know that behavioral patterns can change according to atmosphere or treatment in those atmospheres, so on and so forth. Or it could just be a chemical imbalance that you can't do much about except for try to manage it, right? So on and so forth. But nevertheless, all those things can evolve into something that needs to be managed and regulated, right? But never, and if it's severe, can't ever really, as they would say, play well with others type of deal, right? So that's also very interesting. So what are your examples sometimes? What are you looking at sometimes? You really need to take a step back. Maybe like I expressed in the other video I just did about having superstars and megastars has changed the way we look at ourselves and hold ourselves to a standard outside of our own families and communities. And it's kind of like the same thing here again, right? So, so do we not need to not lose sight of the examples that are in our own families that don't follow examples of defectiveness or what do you want to call it? Just chaos or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Just wild stuff. So, or do we have some good examples that like to express different angles of living, creativity, the wonders of learning and making that exciting and things like that, and actually getting that from a down home source first, rather than looking at this as the end all be all image of what it is to be, greatness or whatever. Maybe that greatness is already inside you all the time. And that's one of the rhythms of the year, understanding, right? I brought it back to that video again. In the beginning of the year, there was a video, the supreme mathematics for the beginning of the year landed on a 3, which is understanding. So are we getting to that point where we start to get that, and we look at that other picture? It's very strange. Regardless, wrong, yes, all definitely bad stuff, you know what I'm saying? But then we see the big picture behind it, so that way we don't fall into traps, be manipulated, and be used again and again and again. Especially, let's get into another weird part, where we're in a time with AI and robotics and all kinds of weird stuff and replacing people or whatever it's going to be. But years ago already, this is old news, where in India, they were going to be the first place to give like a robot citizenship rights. So there's no struggle, there's no rebuttal against it, there's no, you know what I mean? So is this something introduced into a mechanism, a machine, into a bigger machine? As I've talked about societies before, and there's interesting literature to take in to see different angles about what society is, which in my opinion, is a big machine. You know what I'm saying? It's a concept. Everything is concepts, by the way, but it's a concept. We should talk more about that. But it's a concept, which is a tool that uses resources to produce things. You know what I'm saying? And to what means, to what end, that's all dictated by who will be in charge of that machine. So that's how I look at that. So is this just something that is wanted, you know what I'm saying, to be integrated in? See, whereas humans have opinions, humans need to be harmonious, so on and so forth, things need to make sense. We take this data, ones and zeros, things with no emotions or conscience about it, no feelings to experience and remember things, to just integrate that in conveniently, because maybe it was just all part of the plan anyway, because a machine will work better in the machine, right? Can't turn living things into machines, unfortunately, right? So who knows? But just a little something there. I wanted to drop. Happy MLK Day again, but just wanted to spiral into something that would be a little bit interesting and weird. I know the video started a little bit shaky. I wasn't sure on how I would get into the groove or how I would attack it, but I definitely wanted to drop that sentiment and a little something strange, you know what I'm saying? A little sci-fi in there too. But I hope you enjoyed the content. Smash the like button. Definitely appreciate it. It helps a lot. Subscribe if you haven't already. Come along for the journey. Catch up with me on social media. Check out all the music that's in my catalog, also in the featured channels. Check out the Bar, Sweat, and Years mixes. We've got volumes 1 through 3 or 4, I think. And I'm looking forward to hopefully getting back into the swing of things and getting more wonderful artists to a new mix. And check out Cosmic Rock Box. Check out Theta Mob. Check out The Almighty Grind. And check out all the King A.D.S material, you know what I'm saying, as it's wonderful. Check out the Starlines album, which came out before Chance the Rapper's album, and Chance the Rapper's album Starline without an S is also awesome. But definitely stop by, just in case anybody was wondering. I thought I would throw that out there in this video, that if you do see some of the music that comes from one of my albums, Starlines with an S, that album came out just about a year before Starline from Chance the Rapper came out, just in case anyone noticed, just to set the record straight. But definitely check out everything. It's a bunch of good times with you involved. It's always more of a party. I really enjoy doing this and actually connecting with you in a genuine way. So let's keep it going, and much love, onward and upward to greatness. I hope that you accomplish everything you set out to do today, and let's get active. Peace.